I knew what the answer would be. For those of you who haven't started Pathways Level 2 yet, the projects at this level are a lot more focused in direction than any other level. Just like Li Feng, they gave me a survey, although in my case it was discovered my communication style instead of leadership style. The options were direct, supportive, initiating, and analytical. I knew what the answer would be. Whenever I get any sort of personality survey like this, I always get the same answer. You could have seen the result coming when I was 5 years old. If one of the options is analytical or any word that's roughly a synonym for analytical, it always puts me right there in that category. I think I get one of these surveys about once every 5 years from work or school or a magazine, and always says the same thing. You're analytical. Yeah. I think you could have seen this coming from a very early age. My very first memory was a fugacious moment in which I was contemplating a little philosophical question. I was standing in front of the closet between my kitchen and living room and asking my mother, "Mom, how do we know this isn't a dream?" My logic was simple. Yes, that moment seemed real. But when you're dreaming, that also seems real. So how do you tell the difference? How do you know if right now you're actually doing what you think you're doing, or if you're just dreaming that you're doing it? I don't think I ever got a good answer to that question. Well, I've gotten several answers over the years. That sort of analytical mindset has its definite perks. I know it helped me in math class, and it comes in handy every day in my career as an engineer. It also has a few downsides. When I was younger, I had a bit of difficulty relating to other people, mostly because I think I was taking the world a little bit more literally than a lot of the people around me. Now, I can't come up with any examples from conversations, because one of the problems when you're talking with someone is if what they're saying doesn't make sense to you, you can't replay the conversation and listen to the words again. So if it's just a bunch of words that don't seem to connect, you forget what they were, or at least I do. I do, however, remember a one-panel comic strip from the Funny Pages that has stuck with me almost my entire life because it seemed to encapsulate the entire problem. The main character, a certain Mr. Tweedy, was inside of a stereotypical business office. On the wall was a chart showing the stock price, and the ups and downs of the stock price exactly matched the ups and downs of the buildings in the skyline throughout the window. The stock price had just dipped, but if it continued following the buildings, it was about to hit a giant building and go up in the air. And he was just trying to nonchalantly ask how much stock he could buy. The motivation was pretty obvious. That panel made no sense to me at the time. And the funny thing is, I knew I had all the pieces. I could see the similarity between the two shapes. I knew what the character was thinking, but it just didn't make any sense to me that there would be any correlation. It's sort of like the punchline relies on you accepting just for a moment that there's a connection between the stock price and the skyline. And then you laugh because you realize it's just a silly assumption. I skipped right over step 2. For me, the idea that there was any connection was just so absurd that I didn't accept it, so I couldn't laugh at the fact that I accepted that assumption. The funny thing is, at that young age, I probably would have accepted it if someone had said that someone cast a magic spell to make the two line up. At that time, belief in magic was a lot more prevalent, especially growing up in a Christian household where God was casting magic left and right, especially in the Old Testament. But in that case, I wouldn't have gotten to step 2 because it would have seemed reasonable for the two to correlate, and I would have had other questions like, who cast the spell? Why? And why hasn't anybody else noticed? In order to be able to relate to something like that, and to anyone using that sort of logic, you sort of have to be willing to accept things that you know are false. And that seems like something that just came naturally to people around me. For me, I sort of had to learn how to do it deliberately. These days, I can use that sort of humor freely. As a matter of fact, it's probably my preferred form, but I think I had to work at it a lot more than most other people did. I don't think that part of my personality is ever going to change. I'm probably going to go to my grave wondering about the construction of the coffin I'm buried in. But until then, please don't ask me to fill out any personality surveys. I know what the answer is going to be. Thank you.